A CASA is a court-appointed special advocate, and a CASA is a trained volunteer who advocates on behalf of abused or neglected children in the court system.
The children to whom CASAs are appointed are all children who have suffered abuse and neglect to some extent, and usually it's a pretty severe extent because it has risen to the level that they're not safe in their own homes. And once they enter the system, the unfortunate nature of the system is a bit tumultuous. What we're doing, I think, as a society is asking a system to be a parent to a child, and that's an impossible role for a system to fulfill. So as a result, children will switch foster homes, and when they switch foster homes, they switch foster parents, they switch schools, their siblings will change, their therapists and doctors may change just based on geography. And so we have youth who are living in a constant state of flux, and adults are walking in and out of their lives. And the key thing that a CASA volunteer advocate can do is be consistent and keep showing up and be compassionate. So we ask our court-appointed special advocates, when they take a case, to walk alongside that child and represent his or her best interests throughout the entirety of that case until safety and permanency is achieved.
This case I have today is a young man. He's only 10, and he's been in foster care for 2 years now, and he's been in 10 different homes, which has been really trying for him and trying for everyone involved.
The idea of having a CASA means that I have some extra ears and eyes on the case. A CASA is an individual who will watch out and advocate for the best interests of the child. Now, we have a guardian ad litem who's always assigned to the case, and the guardian ad litems are attorneys. The guardian ad litems, however, probably have on their caseload about 70 children that they're advocating for. A CASA advocates just for one child or one family.
Basically what that means is once they get appointed and they go through the training, they go out and meet with that child wherever he or she is, talk to that child, get to know the child, and then work their way out from the child. Talk to their resource or foster parents, talk to their biological family members, and then there's schools, there's doctors, teachers, and they gather all that information and present it in a written report to the judge and the attorneys on the case, and then appear in court to testify on behalf of the child's best interest.
And he keeps moving around. He knows how to play the system. He's learned at a young age if he acts out enough and doesn't like where he's staying, they aren't going to keep him, and he's going to move on to the next home. And he's being poked and prodded by so many people. You have lawyers, you have foster parents, you have his biological parents, therapists, psychiatrists, different schools that he's been in. That's really the heartbreaking part of this case.
Prior to the CASA advocate being appointed, we were looking at a situation where the parents would have their rights terminated because they had not completed what they needed to on the family services plan. They had been through multiple therapists, multiple parent trainers, and multiple caseworkers actually. So prior to the CASA being involved, this family was looking at being separated and having parental rights terminated. The CASA program then came to Lancaster County, and one of the first advocates was appointed to this case. Her name was Carol, and she did an outstanding job of coordinating the services for everyone involved, and she was able to fill in the gaps. We went from being this close to a termination of parental rights to having a successful reunification, and the case closed, and the family is still doing very well today.
I think that the parents understand that the CASA is independent. It's not a court employee, it's not an agency employee, but they're there strictly for the best interests of the child. So I think that the CASA is able to get better and more reliable information from the parents than the caseworker is able to do.
I went to the children and youth worker, got the files, and I read through the files. Now this kid's been in and out of the system his entire life. You know, he was in the system, moved out of it, and then came back in. So I had to try and piece together all of the things that he's been through to understand what traumas he's been and all the different psychiatrists that he's talked to and everything else.
And I'm able to give him the one-on-one that he needs as a friend. Everybody else has a job to do to help him. I'm just there to help him. I don't have a job, and he's my only case. He's my only foster child. Everybody else has other children that they're worried about, but he's the only one that I have, and I make him known to that.
If you talk to a CASA, I'm sure you're going to hear some wonderful cases where they advocated on behalf of the child. The permanency came, and maybe that permanency was a return home to parents who were then able to effectively parent their children in a safe and stable home. Or it could be that permanency was adoption, and I know a number of CASAs who have been able and have been invited to attend those adoptions and to follow that child right through until they get that safe and permanent home.
I've interacted with some people who did have CASAs, and they have grown up, aged out of the system, are adults of their own right now, and it's amazing to have them talk and reflect about how meaningful their CASA was to them. And it's also great to see that sometimes these children are at the highest risk, but with the right advocacy and with the right adults in their lives, they can go on to be grown adults and contributing members to society who are happy and flourishing and doing well. And that's really a direct correlation to the work that CASA does.
But I felt like he was in a position where he was literally almost starting to fall through the cracks, and he was quiet, so he wasn't making a lot of noise. So I went and helped make him noise. I made some noise, like what's happening, and I told the caseworker also, I fully get it. You've got to be overloaded. I can't imagine. I'm just here for one person. You tell me what you'd like me to do to help get this thing moving. I'll do it. I have no problem with that. If I can help with the legwork, I'm in. And that's what we did. And then we worked together to get him out and get him where he needed to be.
Well, if Miss Karen had not come into my life as a CASA, I probably would not be where I'm at now. I'd probably still be, like I said, once again, still angry and still like tore down and still feel like nobody will be able to listen to me, still feel like an outcast. So I feel like I won't even be able to have these opportunities I have now.
I think that the individuals who are CASAs are almost angels, because it's hard work. They get involved in very difficult emotional situations, but they are that steadfast individual who is there to advocate for the best interests of a child.
I grew up with a lot of people helped raise me. I played a lot of sports, and there's a lot of people that I consider to be having taken a parental role. You learn a lot from just being around those people, and you see how they give back to the community. I'm hoping the kids that we help can do the same thing. They see that someone was there to help them, and they reach back to help somebody else in the future as well.
Each circumstance is different, but either way, I know that the children are going to have a nurturing, loving, caring, safe, and permanent home, and that's always the goal.